So welcome to this last episode on why coding for architecture, and we want to come to a kind of conclusion. And I think we got proper vocabulary now to discuss the situation today. So therefore we can say and ask not how to do things, that's a question you normally say with computing, but what to do. So if everything is somehow available or possible, what should I choose to do? And that's, I think, is the architectural question of today. So let's start. We had this idea of this helix as a cultural development of our societies. If this is time, we said there is a scale of time 1, a scale of time 2 and 3. We addressed that to 300 BC, this 1400 AC, Renaissance, and this 1900, this is our today's societies and globalization. So there is the other side, which is not on the scale of space, but on the scale of time. So if we say this T0, T1, T2. So these always the times in between. So we had that. To go into detail, we had S1. And this is with the Greek, with the Euclidean geometry on the notion of space, and we introduced the gnomon, and the gnomon, and these objective chains, so the preservation of area here. So if we go with the sunlight, we have the shadow, and so on. So it's badly drawn. So, but this is the principal setup, and then we had the second perspective projection. We know that as perspective drawing. So we are able to rotate a cube. And if we say in Babylonian times, there are things, real things, then we decouple space from things with this understanding of Euclidean geometry, working on the preservation of space, so of area. So by that we decoupled or emancipated space from thing. And here we said we decouple the time from space, because now we have an absolute realm of time, and we can rotate space in time. Like we can move things in space. So, for example, with the gnomon, we can we can move these things and this consistency of space all around the globe, talking about things not there. So, and with S3, we introduced this probability matrix of Google, which has all the entities here, and then a pattern of similarities, which folds the time, and with time space. So it's of space-time, probability map of space-time. This is what we have with Google. So, and we said this is the emancipation of life. This I would put into quotation marks of time. So now we can what we are seeing with all the recording devices, with the movies, we can go back and forth with all the electrical elements, and objects we have. These things are vivid, and we can go back and forth in time, and they stay vivid in a consistent time. As as a chronological object, they keep consistent, and we can turn them. So this, I think, is constituent for our time. So if these are the scales of time, the scales of space. So now we are in a quantum scale of space. It's a little tricky with the conception of space here and here, but I think we have to live with it. So if optics is the physics of space, so this optics, then just to make it richer in things, then the optics in Euclid in antique is an optics of lines. So with Newton we have an optics, we have the spectrum, we have the prism, we have the lenses, and so on, the telescope and so on. This is an optics of colors. So therefore the mediality of space in Renaissance is color. And I would say today it's of images. So these are, it's a spectrum moving over time and stays stable. So what we experience with all these digital images and technical images today. So this is with Vitruvius, this is with Alberti, and this is with us today. So to give it more volume, I have some pictures, for example, of the self awareness of what a human is in these times. So we had with Vitruvius these statues, and the statue starts to walk. So this is a kind of dynamization in space, I would say. So they keep consistent as an unfolded body in space, but they are moving, because space gets an entity decoupled from the object. So it's quite different than the statues in Babylon or Egypt. I'm not expert in these things, but for me it's very obvious. So if you go to time, you have a new, it's more about the mechanics. So it's not about the space, it's about the mechanics of in space. So when you got these things we are very used to in Renaissance. So, and if you're looking and we're not sure what all this today is about, this is what to do, then I would get this example with Ishiguro, this Japanese guy. This is him, and he says me, myself, and my android. So he makes a robot which is able to move in sync with himself. So this is an electric one, this is a classical mechanic one, and this is a static one. So if we go to architecture, just to work like that, just to qualify these notions of S1, S2, S3. So we have the temple, which is decoupling the conception of space from the solidity of a body. So this is what I would see here. So then we have this object of time, in time. So it's a movement of this temple, and this temple is rotating. So it's got planetary. So this abstract space is rotating. If you go to the floor plan, it's obvious how this works. So it's working like that. And if we look for an example in 20th century, in S3, I would suggest the Villa Savoye, Le Corbusier, to take an example like this. In this case, it's not the elements rotating, but the properties. So with here, these are the elements in defining space. Here, the spatial elements are rotating in time, and that's a property. So time is always defined as a list of properties with values. So, and here, the set of properties is rotating, and by that these elements get vivid. So this gets mechanics, and this is a strong articulation in space. Complicated, but what this is to discuss and to develop. And the hypothesis is that with the masters here, and especially with these axes and this invariant, we can learn. So we see these things, and this is what we should do and think about. If we go, for example, to how it looks, the facade, the face of it, so we have it here already, then I would say just keep the temple. Then what, and to illustrate these kind of optics. So we have it of lines, of principal and conceptual of lines. With the colors, it's like here. By that, the lines get explicit. So by here, it's always complicated. So if you decouple space from the things, then the things get visible in space. So here as well, so things get visible in space, so they articulate space. Here they articulate the lines. So, and the space gets, and by that, so they are able to articulate the lines, but you need the color space for that, to make the lines explicit. So, and here I would say, so this is a new phase of in the media of colors to be able to show lines. And here I would say it's the electric phase, which is the vividness. You need the mediality of space, or the mediality of the physics of space towards, I think as architects you can say, images, moving things, so electricity of that, to be able to show facades in colors. So I would say this line is very, yeah, it's working very well as well to get an understanding what to do today as architect. So that's the first story. The second is with these scales of space. The second is the proportion of space. So, and here we said, we have it here. We always anchor it in Euclidean. So we have this triangle. Imagine that as the gnomon, as the stick. So we said that this one is time all the time, because not moving without space. So, and the shadow is all the space without time. So it's complicated, maybe you turn it the other way around, but I think this is the better the better turn. So then we simply say the time was linear, space is circular, it's going around, so taking that, and the transfer of that is we call that the perspective projection. So then, to give that a name, this is a ghost, the shadow is a ghost. And this here is a statue. So this, and technical wise today, is a clock. And this is a GPS. So, in architecture we said this is orthographia, this is Alberti and Vitruve, orthographia. This is ichnographia. And this is scenographia. So, if you put these are conceptions of the trivium, this old stuff, in contrast to the quadrivium. This is here, this is the scales, as with the quadrivium. The proportions is with the trivium. So, if we are looking here, then there's a traditional talk with that. This is tragedy. Here we have the satire. And here we have the comedy. So that's a statue, it's dead, it's tragic, satire. This is super fertile and growing like hell. It's drunken, Dionysic. This is Apollo, this clear view. That's not there, this is there and drunken. And this is comedy, which puts things into proportion. These are the walls, floor plans, perspective projection in architecture. So if we have that and want to put, so we can find in architecture, within the treatise, these kind of stuff. We have rhetorics, we have the trivium, and we can find stories around that to get stabilization with that. To give a link to today's technique of S3, I would suggest this one. We have the auto, which is the tragedy, corresponds to the tragedy, or the gnomon, which is with time. This is the memory. And today it's big data. The ichnographia is turning all the time. Big data is a flow of things, so it's the dream of the last night. We call that the dream of the last night. This is a big data, and they make no sense. They are a statue. They're dead, but they know everything. The gnomon is the one who knows everything and can't do anything. So that's big data. So to do things is satiric. So this is fertile, this is doing things whatever you like. This is what we see with AI. So there's a generic algorithm, and AI is working like hell. So it's only one algorithm which works on, it's all the same. It works on translation, it works on driving a car, playing chess, whatever you like. In principle, it's the same. As we have it here, AI. And I would say the differential of Descartes plays a different role in S2, in the space with the mediality of colors. So this, I would say, is very the same constellation. So AI, it's only one and it's doing everything. So therefore it's satiric. So, and then to bring that into proportion, that's a complicated thing. What should we do? So therefore, what should we think about that? My suggestion is read Monod. He got the Nobel Prize. I have a link in the script with this book in Xenoteca. He won a Nobel Prize for introducing the concept of the DNA so in molecular biology, he names these things, and I think that's very important and interesting to see. He names the orthographia in my reading, it's the DNA. This is what he introduced to the scientific community. The DNA, and the ichnographia is the body of things, and these are the proteins. So this is how you're built, that you're able to move. So, and then he says, and this is ignored by the whole community. This is what I really don't understand. So, but it's so clear in his book. It's a popular science book about his thinking about life. I really want to recommend Jacques Monod. He says, in my translation, I want to be a tree. So, without this strong will to be something, nothing would happen. Not with DNA, not with proteins, and so on. And that's the proportion. So you have the DNA, you have the proteins, and then you have the strong will to be a tree in a certain environment, in a certain locality, and so on. You have all the memory of all the world and all the experience of your species. You have all the sources to be embodied, to be prosperous and engendered. And then you have to say, I want to be like that, or that, or that. So, therefore, if we transfer that to scenography here with big data AI, I would say it's an application. I would say this is a personal application to make it a little more polite. And I would say this is what in Renaissance was the model. And here we are with the application. So this is the code of a building. And this corresponds to I want to be a specific building. So therefore code is not the DNA of nature or something like that. This is just big data. And DNA has no meaning unless he got a body and unless he got a will. So this is super confusing in all the discourse in our field in computing and in architecture. I think it's a proper setup like that, and this leads much better keep you as an architect upright and think about what to do as an architect. So having these two things, so the trivium and the quadrivium, the scales and the proportions of space. So we look at the situation today, how it is situated. So we talked about, so let's go and look at how things evolved in time. And we had this drawing. So we are on the surface of our planet, and we go to a certain location, and there's a foundation of a city. So we said with Alberti, it's a location. We would say it's an environment. So environment. This is the area or the region. I would directly put it to a city. Then they partition the city. They put towers here, and so on. All this is done. Then we had these compartments, the buildings. They call it compartition. Or we have the building. And then there's our body, the human body. So, and we said there's a symmetry, because this is all about, this is about environment, this is about health. If you read it, we today would say it's about environment again, and the body is about health. So, what we have with infrastructures is here. So this is with the night, and this is with infra. With health, how it works, and then you have this symmetry between body and city, and this is a day. And this is a day as well in our perception. So this is about the primacy of space, the primacy of time, and of machines, of engineering, and so on. The same here, what we see with medicine today. So this synchronicity we do have. So we have the day and the night. So what happens is, in these phases in this development of a new scale of space, an understanding of a new scale. So this is done at day. So if then the people who go out and the earliest understand the potential of this new space. I think that's can go with Deleuze and so on, but I think it's not important this much. They are the nomads. And the war machines in Deleuze, Mille Plateau. So, and these are the settlers. They're at night, at home. So what are the nomads doing? So the settlers are going in their chronology, in time, cause and effect, step by step, day by day, and so on. So, and then there are obstacles, and they can't pass these obstacles and so on, because it's just stuck. So you need this sequence. Infrastructures, machineries, the Industrial Revolution. This is what we have with the settlers, and this is what we're currently in. This is our classical understanding of architecture. So it's a sequence of styles, of developments, of references, and so on. But now, at the new day, the nomads coming, and they affirm the new day, the new mediality of space, and they got super powerful, because we said we had the circle can't be seen by the line. You only can see certain points of a circle, but the line is always missing the circle, so you can't see. You can have it in a certain resolution, but it doesn't fit. So we said in the rational number space, you can't cut, lines don't meet circles, only in very specific cases, which are, for example, here the orthogonals where you put the towers of a city. So, but now the settlers are on time, on these linear things, they look like this, but the nomads are on this circle, and they're invisible for the settlers, so they come around. And they drive the settlers crazy, because they're super powerful. Especially because, look at this, the obstacles they have, so things you can't do, because it's not working by technique, it's not working with the specific rituals at night and so on. You can't do it at night, go out and do something. If you're in this new media, you simply can't call your neighbor even if there is a war. You don't have to go to your neighbor or to China to talk with Chinese people. You don't have to do that. And in this illustration, it's the mobile phone is a walk around. You are circular. So if you are here and the settler and the nomad is here, the nomad instantly can pass the obstacle. The settler can't. The nomad instantly is here with his mobile phone. And the settler don't know what is going on. He's stuck. Because it's out of what he can't imagine, because he stays at home. So this is what we are facing. So therefore, with the upcoming of a new scale of space, there's always an incredible expansion towards empires. So I would say with Vitruvius in S1, this is with Alexander, and the Roman Empire, S2 with Alberti. This is colonization and imperialism. And colonialization, and what we have today with us, S3, we call it globalization. So therefore, the drivers, the powerful people in this setup, driving this globalization, they are like nomads. They are warlords. And the settlers try to defend. Therefore, I would say this is a warlord. It's a nomad. And he smiles charming, but it's this challenge. So I don't want to take a position for anything, it's how it works. So that there are the settlers, there are the nomads. Nomads have a new conception of space, and they can do what they want. So especially with him, with Amazon, it's very important, and I really don't get this idea that you simply think that there are traces of data and so on. This is what he understands and makes his empire of exactly that he distinguishes between the logic of time and the logistics of space. So the interesting with the mobile phone is, or with the packages and the trading of Amazon, is that there is no logic, because you can't. There's no reason why it's coming there but the address. So it's simply that I want to have it here, and you simply say here, yeah, but it's not possible. It's not possible this far. You simply say it doesn't matter. I can go around. So then people go, and this is what is super popular today. They simply say, yeah, but if there is something, for example, a phone call going to China, then we can go for the antennas and the satellites and the glass fibers in the ocean, and we see this is the way of it works. But it's not like that, because the next message, you can take the same message, is just going somewhere else. So it's important that you just say, I want to be here, and then you are there. You're bypassing all reason. This is why he's got powerful, because he's able to bypass reason, the origin of things, which is with the settlers. And the settlers get super nervous. So by that he is a warlord. So going to our form of discussions. There's one argument we have to make, how to get out of this problem. This is the Renaissance setup. This is the Renaissance setup. This is Alexander. So, if you go a step further, what can the settlers do with this challenge of the nomads, with the challenge of the new conception, the new mediality of space? What they have to learn is that they have to turn and rotate their city, whatever it is. They have to learn to rotate the whole story. And wherever the nomads are, rotate the whole city, the whole society, to be able to adapt. This is the only response possible. So they have to establish an axis and rotate it. And this axis, environment, and here the city, then this here the area gets towards urban. And this is a city. This, I would say, is baroque. So you have all the things of the world as a panorama, as a vivid panorama around, and you have a centered vertical void axis, and you can go there and it's calm. So you're not engaged. So nomads are engaged. Settlers are engaged to keep things in harmony. Nomads are engaged to travel around, travel around, and so on. If you want to calm it down as settlers, there's no other way. Get all the trouble to circulation, then it doesn't matter how fast it circulates, but you have to include everything. And then the center is without all this. So that's Baroque. And I think after the Renaissance and after globalization, what is at stake today is what we have seen here. It's Rome. And here it's Baroque. Reformation, counter-reformation, and this is, I think, a digital Baroque. This is what we have to expect, whatever it is. So, this is what we have today. For example, the warlords. They came, and what do the settlers do? This. So that's a clash. So it's getting super disruptive with Trump. All the environment gets random with Trump. That's a strategy of the nomads to conquer settlements. And this gets crystalline in all the schemes we love, of course. But it's not an answer to this solution. And it's explicitly not, especially not an answer, or not in sync what we experienced over our history when we had been challenged in similar ways. So what we need is, we have to domesticate these two poles. So we can't go on the area of here and then the environment, this healthy, and this is not able to react on that. This gets a clash. So we have to domesticate it. This is what the Baroque is able to do. Put that into differentiation and this kind of sophistication in discourse. And therefore, we have to learn how to rotate. So we simply have to learn what these guys are able to do. So again, there's another example. So we have, for example, Kim.com, mega upload. So this is a guy who gives you, and he got criminalized, gives you free upload of cryptographic data. So it's always encrypted, and so you put it off the planet, you can do whatever you like. So, and this is what he sold, and he got criminalized. So everything intransparent, you can do whatever you like. This is nomadic. So the counterpart, the settler counterpart of that is Assange and WikiLeaks. So they dream of transparency of everything, so that the nomads behave like good settlers. But they don't. And he got criminalized, interestingly, as well. This is WikiLeaks, and this is, for example, Mega Upload. So, and we have to civilize that. And instead of going with time, we have to go in the vertical. And we said this is what the vertical is able to do, architecture and space is able to do. So if we are on this, we go module, column, and then the wall, and then the roof, and we are there with architecture. This is what we need. So we need space, a clear articulation of space in contrast to these clashes on the clashes on the map of time. Good. At university, we have these crazy things. So you know the it's a singularity university. So, and I would say, look at this. I would say if we have this setup, this is of this style, and we try to make it proper, but this is recruiting for boot camp, and look how it works, and this is the rhetorics of it.
We are predicting the future by creating it ourselves. It's a magical time. A lot has happened in the last 100 years.
Our intuition about the future is linear. But today the world is global and exponential. Your smartphone is actually billions of times more powerful per dollar than the computer I used when I went to college.
Singularity University is a place that teaches about exponentially growing technologies. Those technologies doubling in power year on year. Computation, sensors, networks, artificial intelligence, robotics, 3D printing, virtual and augmented reality, synthetic biology. All of these are technologies that are riding on increasing computational power. And these are the technologies that are going to be changing our world.
Alan Kay said the best way to predict the future is to invent it.
If all you do is coast, eventually you slow down while others catch up and pass you by.
We are living in the most extraordinary time ever in human history. You have the ability as individuals and as small teams to literally do what only governments and large corporations could have done in decades past.
I don't care if you work at Coca-Cola or you're a startup, policymaker, you work for the government, are you doing meaningful work?
The more people solving problems, the better the world gets. It's a mindset and a power that has never been possible before.
okay, that's a strange thing. So it's on the edge. It's very prominent in California. In Europe, you feel a little uncomfortable. But I would say to analyze that. So it's on the one hand, it's all based on exponential growth. So we will discuss that, why conceptually, categorically, this is wrong. So then, plus a globalization, with an infantilization. So I would say, so it's always the toys, it's the fun, it's a kind of getting super powerful as an individual person on global scale and so on. And I would say it's directly recruiting for warfares. So especially because of this is categorically wrong. So what we have with exponential growth is e by x. So the number a, e, and all these numbers of goods while working by this exponential. So this e is developed with Euler at the beginning of Enlightenment. So that's where it's a sunset. So e is on the sunset. So this is the motor. If I want to, it's a motor of the night. So we talked about the conception of night. So, and therefore it was developed with Euler. Always, if we had this rational number fraction, we have always a by b. So, and this is a night, and this is a day, or you can read it the other way around. That's not important. Important is it's always complicated, as we see it here. Because the space is of time and the time is of space, and it looks whether you are look at it as a sensory or as an actory system, and whether it's the nature of it or the appearance of it. So therefore, it's not this clear as it might seem in the first. So I use all this as for rhetorical reasons, and be a little careful with it. But nevertheless, it's a dichotomy, so it's orthogonal to each other, and it's has nothing. It's so like the circle and the line, and nothing to do with each other. So what Euler did, he put the number e by x to the night. And what's coming out is the learning curve, or the logarithmic curve. So it has an asymptote to a certain level of saturation. That's a learning curve. So, and that's qualitative growth. And that's infinitesimal, and this is endless, and you're always learning. So it's complicated to start, like start coding for architect at the beginning, then you're getting fast, good, very fast, and then to be a supermaster, got a champion, it's getting super complicated to do. So this is qualitative growth, and it's always towards a limit. And E is a conception for the night. The E drives the night. So this, if we had at night this sky, so, and then we had the center where all the stars rotate, this point corresponds to E. So it qualifies whatever happens at night in enlightenment, in all construction, in all industrial production and so on. It's just about learning. So it's internal. So it's a parameter of the settlers. It's in time. So what they do for exponential growth, and Kurzweil is there, he simply puts E from night to day. So if you have A by X, then you put that to day. And by that, it explodes. And that's the same thing, like if you put a microphone, an amplifier, and put the microphone directly to the speaker. It always explodes. So the interesting thing, the limits of growth, for example, this most famous popular science book in the 1970s, limits of growth referenced by that, they all work with this conceptual mistake. They put this motor of the night to the bright sunlight and said, oops, it explodes. The interesting is, whatever you're doing, it always explodes. So like the Club of Rome, they put the globe with the first time a big computer calculating about the future of our planet. So they put the planet into this computer and they run it and it explodes. Of course, it always explodes because that's a wrong conception of what E and Euler did. It's just the number E is on this side and it's not on this side. So it simply makes no sense. So the rotating sky makes no sense if the sun is there and there's bright day. So that's a conceptual mistake. So therefore it's a beautiful, so if all the settlers believe in all these arguments or in the number E and learning and so on, then it's a perfect a perfect strategy for these warlords, just to take this belief, put that as a driving force for their weapons to conquer the world. This, I would think is the situation, and I'm very skeptical with these images, with these stories, with this kind of technology, with this infantilization and so on. You see, it's always relatively complicated, and they simply don't take people serious. They simply take them, recruit them as soldiers. They simply should work, running around and conquering without asking questions. So, therefore, in our studio, it's an architectural studio, I think like the baroque. It's rotating. This is the axis. So, in an architectural studio, you have this triangle again, orthographia, iconographia, scenographia. You have a wall. So put that circular, doesn't matter. Orthographia, this is big data. This is AI, the floor. So in the studio, you simply go up. So this is a mood board, classical mood board. You go up, which does mean, it means you put a table, you sit there and you do your model. You rise from the ground and make beautiful things as a miniature. I have it here. Yeah, miniature. This building is a miniature of the globe, of the world, a cosmical order, because the building, the competition, is in symmetry to the environment. And this is what we had with Ishigami. That he celebrates this new volume, the volume of the new space. He celebrates this volume as a new scale. And you celebrate the environment in your building. And I would say that's it. To be healthy for people. As the city should be, the city and its infrastructures, all the urbanization and it should be with and adaptable to the environment. they should be healthy and adaptive to the environment of the building. So it's a miniature of the globe. Good. That's my talk. I think it's a lot of stuff to discuss, and hope you enjoy it, and look forward for interactive discussions about these topics to develop it further. You see, it's sketchy. It's not how to do things, but what to do not, and give you a certain orientation in today's situation, anchored to the vertical of time, our masters of the past. Thank you.